Hey guys, this is FazRadio, episode 3, Market Manipulation. Let's get into it. Today we have Cy from the Miranda's Guild Consortium Discord, and he's a mod over at the CryptoFaz Academy Discord. And we, of course, have Praetorian Titan, who wants to get into market manipulation.
Well, I thought it might be good to kind of go over the terms and define what we think market manipulation is. I'm kind of a stickler for semantics. I don't know how you guys are, but what do you guys think market manipulation, what qualifies as market manipulation in the crypto world? Because it's not regulated like it is, like securities and antitrust laws regulate market manipulation normally.
Well, even if it's regulated, it can be manipulated. We've seen that recently as well. It has nothing to do with regulation on manipulation. It's just getting caught and what the consequences from the manipulation may or may not be.
I think it's obvious that things that Elon Musk is saying is market manipulation. As far as his level of seriousness, that's another story. I think he's intentionally trying to manipulate the Doge market, but it's hard to tell whether he's doing it for kicks or not. If whatever the case is, it's legal at the moment for the crypto market. It's not legal for the stock market. However, I think those days might be ending soon as the SEC gets more interested.
Yeah, it seems like there might be a sort of an entity other than the SEC that, I predict will be formed and kind of regulate the crypto market similar to and crypto exchanges like they do the stock market, just to protect investors is usually how they frame it, right? The reason the SEC was formed was to protect investors and kind of bring investors to the United States.
The SEC, as we've seen, I think, with this Ripple case, is not really interested as a primary goal in protecting anybody. More people, I think, got hurt by the action the SEC took. My own opinion is we should be looking towards either creating its own governing body or maybe taking it over to the OCC or one of the other entities that we have. The SEC does what they do in the regulated space of securities. I think if you pull them into something that's not even close or remotely connected to the crypto space, you're going to end up having more problems than it's worth.
Another question is, what outside of influencer manipulation like Elon Musk tweets and shilling from YouTubers and things like that, what would you consider? Do you think that the U.S. government is manipulating a market with their regulatory, I guess, the way that they're talking about crypto and the way that, well, not just the United States, but China too, and every other country that's talking about regulating crypto? Do you think part of it is they're trying to manipulate the market, or do you think it's fully just to take advantage of, taxing the profits eventually?
You got to think about this. Governments, by their very definition, tend to want to manage the markets. That's what they do. The Fed manages the stock market, for example. They manage it by announcing interest rates, by announcing different things about money supply and so on. And that matters a lot when you're investing in the stock market and in other parts of the economy. I guess I shouldn't say that the Fed is managing the stock market, but rather the Fed is managing the economy. And all these other countries are managing their economies by stating whether they support something or whether they don't, where they want to put their their investment into, and so on. The the difference with crypto is the government didn't start pushing crypto on people. People are pushing crypto on the government, and that's a weird place for them to be. They don't really like it, in my opinion. They don't like being told what to do by the people. I know that's kind of strange, as we live in a country where the people tells the government what to do, but that's not the way regulators act. Regulators tell you how it's going to be, and they do it for your own good. So as far as what they're doing with crypto, yes, they're totally telling you it's fake or it's good or whatever. They want to manage how people see crypto. They want to manage how people buy crypto. The SEC is going to step in at some point and say, this is what you can invest in and this is what you can't. And then people will find ways around that, and then they'll have to tighten that down more. And of course, the way that they enforce laws, well, the way that they define things is through enforcing people, making examples out of people. So yes, they totally are manipulating the market, and they're not ashamed of telling you that.
Well, there's a lot of that. I hate using the word suppression, but it's almost like suppression with a lot of the exchanges. You can get on crypto.com, right? But you can only do the mobile side. They won't let U.S. citizens go to the website because they can't control what it is you can buy. A lot of these tokens that we look at aren't available, and you'll see disclaimers all over some of the exchanges that say, oh, these certain assets aren't available for U.S. citizens, the U.K., and France. And they've managed to do that because they're wondering, I think, if they are under the definition of security, which could get them in trouble. And I think that threat of enforcement, even outside the borders, is pushing things a little bit too far. It's very, very different on the crypto side versus the stock side. If you go to any of the major securities websites, you're not limited. You can buy any stock that's out there. Whereas in the crypto side, you have to have 5, 6, 7 exchanges just to be able to get the tokens that you want. And the tokens that still aren't on there, you have to end up going through a decentralized exchange. And there you fight with problems with gas fees and with the security of the site. We've seen a couple of them being hacked already. So I think that the government putting their thumb down and letting the markets operate that way with just that threat has helped them get a handle on things a little bit better than if it was just all open and doing whatever the exchanges wanted to do.
So you brought up the term suppression. I kind of wanted to, so like I said, I wanted to define market manipulation in the crypto space. I think it's not as straightforward as people like to think. I think, at least the way that I've looked at it, I think market manipulation has to do with entities or individuals manipulating the market in order to profit from it. So in some way they're benefiting from manipulating the market, which I guess in kind of a indirect way, when the government does kind of suppress the market by creating fear or, whatever they may be doing to suppress crypto, making laws or whatever, it's sort of manipulating it to protect their fiat currency. But I would argue that it's better to call it something like suppression, which is a little more specific. They're not trying to profit off of manipulating the market necessarily. I mean, some countries might be, like, I suspect China is doing that. They're manipulating the market so that they can take control of it. I think the U.S. is a little behind, and they're not they're not really able to do that with their framework that they have set up. But it would be, I think, in my opinion, there is a difference between market manipulation and market suppression. I think market suppression is what the government is doing, or most governments do, to protect their private interests of, fiat currency, or I don't know if you can call that private interests. But what do you guys think? Do you think that it's market suppression is on the same scale as market manipulation, or do you think it deserves a different category?
Well, I mean, it's part of the same thing. You could probably divide market manipulation up into a number of categories on its own. So yeah, I mean, like I said, governments are definitely suppressing because they want to hold things off until they can figure out a way to address it. The problem is with the U.S. government, anyways. I think they're very conflicted about what they want to do. The left hand's doing one thing, the right hand's doing another, and they don't have a coherent message between them. And so you see various parts trying to lead. The SEC didn't want to lead for a long time with crypto. They're kind of picking around the edges. And then the other offices, I believe I forgot what the other one is with, I forgot. There's other parts of the U.S. government that have been fine with crypto and encouraging crypto. I know that there's one part of the government associated with banking. I think the guy's name is Brian Brooks. I think was in charge of that. Now he's in charge of Binance. Hopefully, I got the name right. But they were starting to open things up and make it easier for banks to get into crypto. And now all of a sudden, the banking establishment is starting to fight back, and that other parts of the government are starting to want to take a closer look at things. That very office, now that Mr. Brooks is gone, is starting to say, we want to take a closer look at things. We might not leave things the same. So entrenched interests like banks are starting to fight back. They're starting to see that things are being managed, and they don't like it.
I think that's an excellent point that Cy brought up. There's different types of manipulation, suppression being the one, and individuals or corporations that maybe want to move the market in their favor. So with the Elon stuff, the manipulation, it's going to get to a point pretty soon. I think it's so new that people can manipulate it. I don't think they're manipulating it as much as people portray it. So if Elon tweets, I don't think Elon's tweets are the cause that it went from 65 to 34 with Bitcoin. So I think that there are factors that come into that. So I think as more people get into this and the market caps of these tokens and these coins grows, it's going to be way more difficult for someone making one simple tweet or throwing out one opinion to move the market significantly. We saw with Elon's tweet, it kind of set off a chain reaction of people maybe pulling some assets out of there, which then drove the institutions to take a look at things, and then they're waiting in the wings with their $10 million that they're going to wait and see the low point, buy back in, it'll jump back up. So I think the manipulation goes both ways, and it's not just one single thing that can move a market. It's a combination of things that are set in motion when that's done. This is where I struggle too, because in the crypto space, it's like the Wild West, and it was meant to be what the people wanted it to be. And if the market's going to move, if you want to be involved in this space, you need to accept the fact that it's going to do that. And it shouldn't be regulated to the point, I don't think, where you're going to have the market not being free. And I think that's where the government comes in with their manipulation, is they want to be able to have that control and be able to manipulate it so that it works best for the common person. This is not for the common person. This is for people who want to move to the space for whatever reasons they're in crypto to begin with. So if you want to call it manipulation that is something bad, maybe it's not so bad. Maybe you just leave it and let it be what it is.
We're still in the Wild West a little bit. I mean, you can say right now, crypto is not what everybody should be getting into. There's a thought by parts of our society that market should be free and open, and you should be able to take as big a risk as you want to. And then there's a thought by other parts of our society that you need to protect people from themselves because a lot of people make bad decisions. And they do that with regular stocks. They do that with everyday things like buying houses and going to restaurants and eating bad food and versus good food and stuff like that. So I think eventually there will be some sort of balance. The government has an interesting angle because I think that I think that the government's best interests are at making it so that everybody will succeed in some way. And really, people get into the stock market and crypto because they want to make money. They don't care. And how are you making money? You're literally making money off of other people losing money in the stock market and in crypto. Let's get real. So, there's a need for some level of market manipulation. And you've got to remember right now with crypto, every single person in crypto is trying to manipulate in some way. I mean, everybody's thinking about, boy, if I just bought a whole bunch of this, I could make this price go up or down if I sold it a lot and so on. Everybody's trying to manipulate crypto. So it's a very big fuzzy subject right now, and we're in very early days. Later, I think there'll be a better definition of what market manipulation really means if and when crypto gets regulated.
Here's a question for either of you can answer. If you had complete control over regulations and things, like if you were the government, let's say you were the U.S. government, what would you regulate, and what kind of laws would you put in place maybe to prevent manipulation, or would you put any laws into place?
Well, that's easy. Yes, I would. What kind of laws would I put in place? I mean, I would. It would depend on the situation. It's obvious that there's got to be some sort of regulation of this. Absent these laws, entities will regulate for you. Coinbase is actually an attempt at regulation by Coinbase. The earliest actors that get in are in essence regulating things for you. Coinbase is making it easy so you can just click a button and get a crypto. Coinbase also sends you little helpful tips. It also takes off what it considers are the bad cryptos or cryptos that you shouldn't do. And I'm sure after a while, especially since they're a publicly traded company now, they will start telling you when you've had too much. Just like when you go to the bar and the bartender cuts you off, Coinbase will probably cut you off at some point. So what would I change? Yeah, I do some regulation, but I think right now it's a bit too early to tell.
I'm on the other side of that. I don't think there should be a lot of laws. I don't think there should be a lot of regulation. And quite frankly, taking it to the lowest common denominator in this space, I think kills it. You've got to be able to have that freedom to set up a product. And I use product loosely because crypto is sort of a product. It's sort of not a product. If you take and just let it be, look what it's become by just letting it be. Up to this point, when Satoshi put that Bitcoin network out there and this whole concept was created, it grew by itself with no regulation right where it is now. And now you're going to take the monkey wrench and the hammer and the screwdriver, and you're going to start playing with this system that was set up specifically to not use wrenches, screwdrivers, and hammers on, and it's going to screw it all up. I think you just need to let it go. And I understand there's huge consequences for that, because the banking system and everything that we've been used to for the last 100 years is going to be turned upside down in the box, dumped onto the ground, and only the strongest are going to survive. It's, in my opinion, not for the government to form crypto around the existing system. It's really meant to have the existing system form itself around crypto. And the companies and the banks that can't figure out how to incorporate that into their plan for the future aren't going to survive. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. There'll be new companies that will find a way to form around that and become hugely successful. You have a company like the new Kraken Bank. Okay, so in Wyoming, they've opened up the laws. Texas just opened up their crypto laws, and they said, you know what? Here you go. Let's let you, give you enough rope. Just do what you're going to do, and we'll figure it out as we go along. They understand that the opinion that I have is the same as what they have. Let's let them do what they're going to do. We'll form it around this, and we'll see what happens. And they're taking that risk, and I think that's tremendous. So as far as a regulation or a law, I'm for the minimum on that. Okay, let's get something in place. If I'm the government, I say, okay, let's get something in place where you have your basics taken care of. There's no lying, there's no cheating, and there's no stealing. Okay, you can't go out and market something in a way that's going to influence people to make decisions with their money that's stupid, or steal their money, rug pulls and things like that. Have regulations around those type of things, but let the space figure itself out, and it will become self-regulating. The concept that they have now that they can't wrap their heads around is that a lot of these are decentralized. There's no organization that's really running it. It's on its own, and they don't understand that whole concept, which is why they're trying to take the screwdrivers, hammers, and wrenches to it. They're saying, well, we've got to have some kind of control on this. Well, I'd argue, no, you don't. Let it be.
So I guess I would take kind of an unpopular opinion here. As a realist, I think there needs to be regulation, especially in the US, because the US is such an influential figure in the world. It's just the kind of impending doom of regulation is always going to be held over everyone's heads until it happens. There's going to be shifts in power, and people, maybe regulation changes or whatever in the future, but there needs to be some sort of specific crypto regulation figured out. And I think it'll probably end up being pretty close to how other currencies are regulated and taxed, which I guess is difficult for the IRS in particular to enforce, being that it's hard to. I guess there's a lot of laundering and evasion going on, but I also think it's necessary to renew confidence in the market. You know what I mean? So true. It might be better if, like in a perfect world, there was no regulation. You just let these really interesting technologies take off and kind of figure themselves out, self-govern, do whatever they want. But realistically, that's not going to happen in this world, the way that things are set up, and no government is going to allow that to happen. So the sooner the better, I think. That's my opinion.
Well, what's the something that people are leaving out, and I forgot if I said it already, but something I think people are leaving out is each country is trying to see crypto as something, as a product of their country. They're trying to regulate it as according to their country, but they likely realize, and everybody in crypto realizes, that if one country does some sort of regulation with crypto, not all the other countries are going to go along with it. And so, in that sense, the least regulated country will win. So Titan can be happy to know that that situation will happen. Texas and Wyoming, I think, are trying to be the new Delaware. Delaware is where companies and businesses incorporate, because the rules are much more lax for them. And of course, the federal government seems fine with that. So they all move to Delaware. And so I think there's going to be a competition to see who could be the new Delaware for crypto. But the federal government is still going to have a problem with wrapping its mind around crypto, because any rules that they put in there are going to be easy to circumvent by everyone else that's not in the United States. And of course, that is going to put pressure on it. So say they say you can only buy crypto on Tuesdays. Everybody else in the world is going to be able to buy on the other days, and it's going to be in their news, and we're going to hear about it nonstop. And eventually we're going to put a lot of pressure on the government. So they don't want to have to look bad and have to reverse a rule because of that. So that's why I think they're going extremely slow. They realize that anything they do is they're going to get bent over backwards. It's kind of funny. This Ripple case, this SEC versus Ripple case, I think is a good example. And I don't know if either of you are following the case, but the SEC is trying very hard to make a lot of points that aren't going to, even if they win, aren't going to be that effective for Ripple, because Ripple can just move to another country. Bam, I'm over here now. Forget you guys. Haha. They can laugh all they want.
It is a conundrum that we're going to be facing with all the other countries. And that is the beauty of this space, is that it is global. I almost jumped on Cy and stepped on him with a comment a few minutes ago when he was saying, he used the phrase that I hate the most in life. And that's the paradigm that we're always going to do things the way that we've always done them. It's not going to fit because that's the way things are done. Well, that's the problem. And that, I think, is the root of it all. People need to change. They need to adapt. The rest of the world has adapted in so many other ways. If you leave the borders of the United States, it's vastly different in every other corner of the world. Now, that's good and bad. I mean, I know that we have some countries that treat their people horribly, but when you look at it like this, and you have a global currency, the Bitcoin, you can go take your Bitcoin and pay somebody in any country. You can take your Chainlink tokens and put them anywhere, use them any way that you want. And instead of trying to fit all of that back into the box of how the world's always been operating, isn't going to work. It really isn't. And that's what they're trying to do. And that's why they're failing miserably at it. That's where it gets to the point where we as a community in crypto need to educate the others and say, look, we're not trying to stuff you completely into our box, but you need to crawl out of your box, and we both need to move into a new box. And it's going to be a much bigger box, and we're going to work together to figure out how this can work for both sides. I don't think they're going to succeed at taking, as Faz said, with the Ripple case, we're not going to have a winner and a loser. There's going to be a compromise in there somewhere. And that is part of chipping away at the existing system.
Well, I'll comment on that because I think, I think it's slightly misinterpreted what I said, because I agree that, if we start looking at things in a new light and change with the times, then we'd all be much better off. But the problem is that it just doesn't happen that way. Like, things don't change overnight. This isn't like it can't really be a revolution where things happen in a year time span. It's taken this long to get where we're at, and a lot has happened with DeFi and stuff, but I don't think, it's going to take a lot of time and a lot of cycles through different leaderships and what am I trying to say? We're going to have to wait. We're going to have to be patient, because that's just the problem with governments, is they're slow and they don't change things overnight, and they oftentimes don't change things for the better. For most people, they're just slow, and I wish that weren't the case, but that's just how I see it. And I guess I'm pretty pessimistic as far as how I've witnessed and observed government action to be, but I think that's just a realistic expectation for it to take a long time. Like, maybe we'll have to wait for multiple changes of power between different parties or something for a lot of change, to see a lot of changes in the financial space. Who knows? But I think it's going to be slow. I think expecting it to happen within a year's time is kind of unrealistic. That's all I'm saying.
So to tie that back into the market manipulation, I think that might be a pretty big catalyst too, is the push on the crypto space, the push on governments, the push on regulators, the push on exchanges to make those changes, and seeing who's going to give the most on those sides. I think that has a natural market manipulation effect, because you have all of these forces pushing on each other, which leads to the uncertainty. And you have these big media conglomerates which put out the same message in different wording on all those platforms. The existing system uses that to get the influence that they want. And no matter what FUD is out there, people have still pushed through it and have continued to grow this space month after month, week after week, day after day. There's hiccups, there's setbacks, there's pushback, there's another giant headline that scares everybody, that'll dump the market. But if you really go back and you pull up these charts on a lot of these tokens, and they all kind of follow each other, you'll see with these news cycles that it'll drop, and then within a day or two, it's back up. And it'll drop, and within a day or two, it's back up. And while that's no means a guarantee for the future, I think that if you look over time and you pull back on that chart to a 5-year look, you're going to see all these hiccups and you're going to see a recovery. And it's because whoever's pushing isn't pushing hard enough on their side. The government decided to come out with this Ripple case and just try and slam the hammer down and put an end to it. And they thought it would be an easy thing for them to do. And they realized very quickly that it's not. And I think that you're going to see that step back from the people pushing on the regulation side, because they're looking at this and going, wait a minute, this used to be easy. The SEC would raise their hand and throw a lawsuit in, and everybody would roll over and pay a huge fine, and the SEC gets whatever they want. Not the case anymore. So I think that that's maybe why you're not seeing things change as fast, is that people are looking at this and they're going, oh no, this isn't business as usual. People aren't rolling over like they used to. We're going to have to approach this a different way. You know, maybe it's, if you can't beat them, join them. I don't know. But I think that's where you're going to see a lot of that, that hesitation. Because as Faz said, you know, they can come out and just throw all kinds of things out there, but then they're going to have to step back. And one of the last things a government or an institution or a regulator wants to do is look stupid. So in order to save face, I think that's why they're moving so slowly on regulation. They're moving so slowly on a CBDC. It's something that they realize, oh no, we don't have the power we once used to have.
Yeah, that's a good point. And I wanted to bring up something additional other than the Ripple case, which was Facebook and Libra. So Facebook decided to say, hey, we'd like to have a cryptocurrency. This is what we're going to do. We want to do it the right way, the way that the government would like us to do it. So how do you guys want us to do it? And the government went nuts. They went crazy. They had congressional hearings. You know, people were grandstanding. Oh my God, what are you doing? You're trying to replace fiat money, blah, 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 blah. And it just completely blew up in their face. Meanwhile, you know, people like Elon are making tons on Bitcoin and Dogecoin by just doing it. And so there's two approaches here. One is do it. Make it happen, and people will adjust, which actually gets a lot of traction in the United States, or ask permission. Ask permission doesn't seem to work too much. And in fact, even Ripple has a little bit of an uphill battle, because they've been asking permission for 8 years and they've been getting nowhere. They did it in a different way than Facebook did. Facebook was very public about it. Hey, tell us what to do. And Ripple was just going to the SEC saying, tell us what to do. Both times they've been burned. In the meantime, Bitcoin and Ethereum have popped up, and the SEC and the government has just rolled over and just said, yep, those aren't securities. They're fine. And Bitcoin is just going about its business. And now Dogecoin is going about its business, doing its thing. And I get a sense that the government might roll over there too if Dogecoin keeps going the way that it is. So, you know, which one is manipulation? Dogecoin or XRP? And which do we prefer? I think we actually kind of want a little manipulation.
Ooh, that's a fantastic point. You know, what you just said got me thinking, is any of this truly manipulation? Is it really somebody trying to do something, or is it just the spaces trying to figure out how to proceed? Libra was a fantastic segue in there. I didn't even think of that. That was something. You have one of the most powerful organizations on the planet in Facebook that was going to suddenly come out and drop out this token, and everybody had to hit the brakes. And I'm sure there's going to be a lot of favors behind the scenes that'll be cashed in later for getting Zuckerberg to hold off on that. But if there is something as big as Libra that would, I think they probably thought that that was even bigger than Bitcoin because of the influence and reach and scope that Facebook has all over this planet. That's an excellent point.
So I wanted to touch on the thing you said about if we want market manipulation at all, if that's can ever be a positive. And I would agree that, in certain cases, it probably is necessary. I mean, you could even argue, I mean, there are conspiracy theories that you putting on our tinfoil hat, if you want to look at the Elon, I don't know, Elon Gate, if you want to call it that or something, is basically could be seen as him forcing the hand of the government, or whoever is angry at what he's doing, his market. It's very obviously manipulating the market, and a lot of people are being burned. It's like right along the same lines as the GameStop fiasco, which was memed a lot, and it's something that's forcing the hand of regulatory bodies, which is a good thing. I mean, it's making them get to work in clarifying and allowing the space to continue, or at least clarifying so that people aren't so ambivalent about getting into the space in the first place. I mean, you could look at it as a few different positives. It's Elon's tweets are mainstream, so they're getting a lot of press, and people are getting into crypto because they see Elon is pumping the coin or something. But it's also positive because, like I said, it's forcing hands, and I think it's also revealing a lot of flaws in crypto that might kind of, it's almost like people I think could be tired out. Like he's, I'm not saying this is what he's deliberately doing. Like he doesn't necessarily want to do this, tire people out and kind of get people more wary of what they're investing in, with Dogecoin and stuff. It's almost like he's teaching people a lesson, but it's hard to say what his true intentions are. He could just be messing with people because he likes to mess with people. But I think there are a lot of positives, you could say, with stories like that, Elon tweets and GameStop pumps.
So I think from a look at how people view it is going to play into it as well. So let me give you this. If you have Facebook Libra we know it as a token, as a crypto asset, you bring that to the people in a different way, though. They know it as Facebook money. And when you describe it to people as, hey, this is just Facebook money, they're going to grasp that concept way easier than they're going to grab, hey, here's what Bitcoin is. And getting them to understand it and to adopt it and to embrace it, that would be a perfect segue into it. And I think that would flatten the Libra market very quickly. I don't think you would see wild swings in that because I think a lot of the manipulation comes from people not understanding it as well. They think it's either like a stock. They don't see it as money. They see it as something completely different. Whereas I think a lot of the fear with Libra came from that, because the government realized this exact thing and said, boy, people are just going to see this as Facebook money, and it's not going to confuse them. They're going to adopt it. They're going to make it very easy to use these tokens or Libra or whatever you want to call them. That makes a huge difference in how it's presented to people as well.
Long pause.
Yeah, I don't know much about Libra, so I can't speak to that too much. But I do think a really well-known public company like Facebook would be typically, in normal circumstances, if Facebook wasn't so hated nowadays, it might be a good way to onboard a lot of people. But I think with Facebook's reputation, it might do the opposite, to be honest. Not really positive on that, but I think it could do more harm than good, because people don't really trust Facebook. Some people do still, but I mean,
well, the Facebook marketplace is thriving. And I think if you look back onto when that was introduced and read about how this Libra token has been in the works for years, I think they meant to couple it in the first place. I think they probably realized that the crypto industry was going to have a profound effect. And I think that they put that together. Those people are geniuses over there. And you have now with Facebook furious with Apple about the new privacy settings. And they're pushing hard to keep that out of the Android ecosystem as well, to where the privacy is shut off. So I think when you have market manipulation at play, coming up with the release of this token with privacy, all of these things are going to be factors moving forward.
My Faz question of the day is: do you think the Elon manipulation that we've seen of the past month or so, do you think it's a net positive or a net negative for cryptocurrency, and why?
I think it's a net positive, because I want to. Elon has shown, if he's shaken out that many people seriously, then those people need to be shaken out. The market needs to build in my opinion, the market needs to build in a very robust way. Really, if you have been investing in crypto for a year or so, you're way up this year already. So, some people are losing their minds right now on Twitter, but in the long term, it's fine. If he shakes out people, he shakes out people. They'll come back when they feel things are safe or more safe. And I'm a programmer. I'm a software developer. I feel that hackers are good for testing software. So because if somebody can get in, they will. Well, the same thing with Elon. If somebody can mess up crypto by just saying things, then they should, so that the market can adapt. How it adapts, I don't know. I won't make any predictions about that, or I don't have any strong opinions about. The market will adapt.
That was a great question. And I would say it's a net positive for a lot of the reasons that Faz mentioned, but also because as people learn, as they have with other media or famous people making their opinions known, that it's just a fad. And that person that has influence now won't have influence later. And the adaptation, as Faz mentioned, will take us to a much better place. I think right now nobody knows what they're doing yet. And I think Elon is doing it as a way to toy with it, just to see what kind of influence, how strong the market is for each of the things that he is positive and negative about, and see what the effect is. Because, I mean, that's great intelligence, right? So if you're someone who has a ton of money and is going to want to put that money into Bitcoin or Dogecoin, you want to be able to see that if somebody else starts talking about the token that you're so heavily invested in, what is the effect going to be on that token? And it's probably, in my opinion, just a marketing thing for him. It's an intelligence gathering mission to see how and if those assets can be manipulated and by how much. And I think that you'll see a lot of other very smart people and very wealthy people taking heed to that information as well. They will be able to make their decisions a lot better moving forward with how much money they want to put into things, because they'll know when that influence has been minimized. They'll know how much risk they're exposing themselves to. I thought that was a great experiment on his part to figure those things out.
And just going along those same lines, if I don't know if you've seen any of his recent tweets about Doge, they haven't really affected the price positively. Any of his recent tweets, partly probably because the whole market is tanking, but also because maybe he just doesn't have as much influence on it anymore, because it's too predictable at this point. You know, the market can't. It can only take so much manipulation before the players start to kind of become skeptical and stop basing all of their decisions on one person's tweets.
That's very true. I think you're going to see a lot more people in influential positions starting to speak their opinions on how all of this is going. But at the same time, if I was a betting guy, I would bet that a lot of influential people have already put a great deal of money into the crypto market. They're probably just not ready to say anything about it yet. They want to see where it's going to go before they decide to step in, because the spotlight is on this industry. I mean, with full, 5,000 lumens. So if you were the ones to step out and say anything positive or negative, it's really going to focus a lot of attention on you.
Right. There's a lot of, I mean, people with a lot of influence oftentimes are aware of their influence, right? So for instance, like a Mark Cuban or something, where if he says that he's behind or investing in a specific project, that project's going to get a lot of attention and positive growth, but mostly artificial from just his influence. So does he really want that? If he wants that project to succeed in the long term, does he really want it to be artificially grown in that way? Probably not. I mean, if he was serious about it, not just in it for the quick gains.
Well, and that's another big factor in that. Are these people traders or are they hodlers? I think your Teslas who are taking company reserves and putting them, that asset, taking their corporate assets and putting them into something like Bitcoin or Dogecoin or any coin that's going to be for the long term, is substantially different than maybe some of their play money that they just want to throw in there and see if they can make some quick money. I think with Mark Cuban taking his Dallas Mavericks basketball team and accepting Doge for payments for concessions, I think that is looking on the short-term side. I mean, I haven't seen it. I don't know if he's put it out there. If he's taken any of his Mavericks money and put it in long term to Doge, I don't know. But I don't. That would be a big factor in determining whether or not this is something they're just looking to make a quick buck off of, or if they're really truly invested, not only monetarily, but mentally and emotionally into the crypto space.
They're doing it because they can. Come on. Right now, this area is not regulated, and they're just doing what they're doing. Elon Musk is simply showing his personality. If he gets away with it and it actually does move things, he'll show his personality more until he's no longer allowed to do it. We all will. So it's fine. It's all fine. Well then, at that, then just as quickly as we start, we can end it. So have a good one, guys. Thank you very much for another good show, and I hope to have more in the future.
Yeah, have a good one. Let me know when your next show is gonna broadcast.
Will do. Thanks for hanging out, guys.
See ya.